The job ads market nowadays is huge, so whether you're specifically looking for a job or just scrolling the web, chances are at some point you'll come across a sufficiently interesting ad that you consider as worthwhile exploring. Now, what not many people know is what really happens after you click that ad, and specifically what type of information you're automatically sharing with the employer once you do so. Let's say you're a techie, but really this can apply to pretty much any type of job, and you browse the web looking for an answer to some coding problem. You reach a popular website in your area of activity, that is Stack Overflow. And there, chances are that you will come across an interesting job ad, which you may click on. Then you see this is something that might really interest you, and you continue with your application, eventually fill in the details, upload your resume, and then submit. Now, if you'll take a closer look at the link that you followed to land on the application page, you'll notice that it actually tracks the source of your application. This is, in this case, Stack Overflow. And in fact, in many cases, the reference link will not even tell you this information at all. For example, this is the jobs website of an HR software startup that is using a third-party applicant tracking system, which is again tracking your application source, but this time in an even less transparent way. Removing these tracking codes is usually quite easy. All you have to do in the first case is to remove the source tag, and in the second example you can remove the edit bits at the end of the link. Now, let me give you a few reasons and ideas on why tracking your source, the source of your application, is so important. You see, within a hiring process, the screening step is a step where most applicants fail. So for most people, the first impression is also the last impression. And my second point here is a bit of a parallel with the privacy laws in Europe, because you see, it's not by mistake that here in Europe, all webmasters have to notify every visitor of the use of cookies, and this is basically because of the repeated failures of the ads giants to basically tell you that you're being tracked at basically every step. And in fact, in my opinion, a similar scenario applies with the candidate's journey, and it should only be normal to be notified that websites are tracking this type of information. And if we look at an example here, let's say you chose to apply to a job on Indeed, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you found a job through Indeed, but you just make a quick Google search, and that was the first result because you already knew about that opening. You were only interested in the link to apply to that specific job. So in that scenario, you're automatically associating your image with Indeed, which is nothing more than a transactional job ads marketplace. And for instance, if you'll ever have to negotiate a salary or tell that employer that you have a family and you're a very, very busy person, that Indeed will come in a bit of a contradiction with the image that you want to transmit here. And probably the most important reason why you would want to carefully manage every bit of information that you share about you is because you see, when you apply to a job through the internet, is not an ideal situation, because an ideal situation would be in a face-to-face interview with the hiring manager, and it would basically become obvious in terms of feelings and in terms of soft skills what type of relationship you would have with that company. Now, when you go through the internet, there are more likely than not a few gatekeepers that you will have to pass through, such as the applicant tracking system or even the recruiter, which might not have much in common with your position. And basically communicating with the recruiter as compared to communicating face-to-face with the hiring manager is a lot more challenging. And when you have other 100 people applying for the same position, you can imagine the type of competition and the type of filtering process that takes place. So the idea here is that you really want to be able to manage every bit of information shared about you. So in conclusion here, this sharing of information without applicants' knowledge is a privacy problem. However, I would encourage you to take advantage of the information that I gave you here, and more specifically to to get rid of that tracking codes, and to basically put this to your advantage as much as you can. Thank you for watching.